All right, music fans, welcome back. It is I, Dave, the real music observer, observing real music in real time for real people just like you right there and just like me. Today's topic, at least on this video, is Dan Fogelberg. Dan Fogelberg, an amazing singer, songwriter. He just a tremendous talent. Uh, Left planet Earth, I believe, back in 2007 and had a very aggressive cancer and unfortunately was not able to beat it. And it's just a shame. We lose these great musicians and people just kind of blink and nod and they go on with their life and so forth. And you got to. But with Fogelberg, there needs to be some kind of recognition of this guy's talent and greatness. Uh, his greatest hits album is just phenomenal. Part of the Plan, Heart Hotels, Hard to Say, Longer, Missing You, The Power of Gold, Make Love Stay, leader of the band, Run for the Roses, and Same Old Lang Syne, a tune at the end there that is such an epic sort of holiday into New Year's. I mean, if you're not hearing that song on New Year's Eve, back in the day, I don't know what they do now on radio stations because it's just ridiculous. I mean, there's nothing there for me usually to listen to, but during the 80s and probably into the 90s, I mean, that song was a constant reminder of things that you've lost. In this case, it was an actual woman that Dan had a thing for, and they met up, and it's a great story. You know, they're in the car having a six pack and sharing all these memories, and she drives away, and he goes back to his life and so forth. And it's just a brilliant song. It's one of those songs that has so much meaning outside of just the personal story here and the truth. By the way, this was based on a true story. If you didn't know that, it wasn't just made up. Uh, that song alone, to me, is, it's more songwriting than some artists do in their entire career. I'm just saying, it just is. But if you look at this list of songs, these were songs I heard. See, being from where I was at, it was an adult contemporary radio station war. And there were 3 or 4 stations that were basically playing the same music, but trying to do it more creatively, sometimes with deeper album cuts, sometimes with just better promotions, better DJs, and so forth. But I was surrounded by Dan Fogelberg, and I don't hear any DF anywhere now, for the most part. Occasionally on a really good soft rock station, you might hear something. But Heart Hotels, I used to hear that. Hard to Say, I used to hear that all the time, and I don't hear it. And it's just a tragedy. Fogelberg should be in the Hall of Fame based on these 10 songs and also the body of work, the deeper tracks from albums like Phoenix and Souvenirs, and even his work with Tim Weisberg. The Innocent Age was a huge album. I mean, it's just kind of sad where we've gone, and the musicians he worked with. If you've got Russ Kunkel on drums, you've got one heck of a band. That's all I can tell you. Russ Kunkel, Joe Vitale from Joe Walsh's band, also playing drums with Dan from time to time, and the great Al Garth on saxophone. And I forgot about Kenny Passarelli on bass guitar. And these were the kind of musicians that all kind of hung together with the West Coast gang. That's why I love West Coast music. It's why I would bring a whole bunch of West Coast style albums. And when I say West Coast, I mean kind of that singer songwriter, softer rock. And look, I was into 70s music. I mean, I really became aware, I think, around 10 or 11 years old. My first album purchase was the White Fleetwood Mac album with Rhiannon and all those Over My Head and all those great songs that were on that. That was my first album purchase. So I chose wisely. I had good taste. But all of that music was normal back then. That's the weird thing. Uh, Even now, I sense that there are a lot of people around my age that they're trying to hold on to that harder rock. They're trying to hold on to it because it means that they're not aging. It means that they're okay, being like younger and hipper and all that stuff. But there's nothing wrong with throwing on some Dan Fogelberg. There's nothing wrong with listening to James Taylor. Fogelberg was just honored in a tribute album where the Eagles and Joe Walsh specifically did the song Part of the Plan, and their versions are like, it's kind of meh. It's all right. I was expecting, a real good work up, and maybe rather than just sticking to the song, which they did, they might add some really good harmonies and stuff, but it kind of came off as a Joe Walsh solo tune rather than an Eagles tune. That's just my opinion. But on the original, Joe Walsh actually worked on the original song, so you can't really beat the original in this case. I'm glad they paid tribute to him. I think they're trying to raise some awareness that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame needs to kind of wake up and start to smell some of this coffee that they're missing. Okay, and it's one thing for these mega super groups to be ignored, and hopefully they're on the list to get into the Hall of Fame. But a guy like Fogelberg, and I did a video about Jim Croce a while back, it does seem that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has a thing against softer rock. I mean, you could make an argument for a lot of 70s softer rock artists who had a string of hits, who were really part of the soundtrack, the Americana radio soundtrack. And for some reason, that just doesn't appeal to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They could care less about if you listen to, like Seals and Crofts in the 70s, or England Dan and John Ford Coley. Remember those guys? I mean, just one fantastic song after another. Their greatest hits collection is another thing that if you don't want your ears to bleed and you want to absorb some fabulous music and get it into your bloodstream, you might start there. It's just a great place to be. And I am not just this guy who wants to bang my head and have blood shooting out from my ears. Dan Fogelberg is one of those guys who elicits a lot of great memories, and for some of us, he was an important part of our growing up and our transition from, just hearing some really good rock and roll, but then hearing some adults play some adult music. You know what I mean? And that's what Dan Fogelberg was all about. His deeper cuts from some of his older albums would certainly appeal to the album rock aficionados. The intricate guitar work, all of the stuff is there. The songwriting, the instrumentation. Dan Fogelberg needs to be in the Hall of Fame. More importantly, for us, he needs to be remembered as one of the great singer-songwriters of all time. And just on that one tune, Same Old Lang Syne, for me, that's kind of like a Don McLean American Pie moment. That's just, holy crap, Batman on steroids. I can say that. All right, so I'm done pleading. I'm not sure what you think. Am I way off base? Maybe. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We're doing well. Also, Patreon, just $1 a month, folks, for me to keep doing these videos and to actually, sustain a modest living. Just $1. It's really helpful, and I promise I'll keep doing videos, okay? And we'll hash through all this other stuff together, whether you agree or disagree. I'm hoping that you're watching. All right, that's it. I'm done. I'm Dave. I'll be back soon with more real music in real time for real people just like you right there and just like me. And we'll do it real soon.